Hi there, welcome back to the channel. This is a channel dedicated not only to my 2012 Jeep Rubicon, but to Jeeps in general.
And today, we're going to talk about mud. I like going through mud as much as the next person. Honest, I do. But the thing about mud in deep water is that it's really hard on your idler pulleys, the tensioner, as well as the alternator. This is a lesson I've learned the hard way over the years, so my days of pinning it through puddles are pretty much over.
While the alternator failing probably isn't all that common, this shitty little pulley, which is likely made in China, seizing up is very common. And when this pulley, there's two of these, and when either of these fail, what's going to happen is it's going to melt your belt. And when your belt melts, you have no power steering, no power brakes. Heck, you don't have any power. You don't have cooling, you don't have AC. You can live without the AC, but when your water pump stops, your adventure's pretty much over. And at that point, you're either doing a repair in the bush, you're asking some of your buddies that came along with you to pull you out, pretty embarrassing, or, and this is a worst case scenario, you're burning your Jeep to the ground in a gasoline-fueled fit of rage. Granted, that last one should be a worst case scenario. But either way, it gets expensive. And I would rather drive through a mud puddle like Miss Daisy than spending hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars on a new alternator, countless pulleys, new belt, over and over and over. For me, it's just a no-brainer. Because I'm kind of, planning a trip to Moab, and I would rather spend money on getting Ruby ready for that trip than on useless parts like pulleys, alternators, belts, etc.
Don't get me wrong here, because this is pretty much one of the most awesome spectacles I have ever seen.
If any of you are going mud bogging, call me. I would love to shoot that in 4K super slow-mo anytime. It gets expensive. Like, super expensive. But there is something that you can do to add reliability to not only your JK, but your JL too. Get rid of the Mopar idler pulleys as soon as possible. The bearing, as you can see, is undersized. I don't believe they're rebuildable. They're plastic and just generally pretty shitty. So get rid of them, like now.
As with most engine bay work, this job starts off by removing your engine cover, the air intake, along with the air box. I don't see too many mechanics doing this step, but if your engine bay isn't washed regularly like mine is, you will want to put a Ziploc bag over your throttle body just to be safe. Because I'm removing the alternator, it's a really good idea to disconnect the battery. Removing the alternator is pretty basic, just a few connectors and the positive line. Next up, place a 1/2-inch breaker bar into the tensioner belt. Apply pressure towards the driver's side and remove the serpentine belt from the alternator.
Okay, so now your alternator's out. You've got your Mopar pulleys, you've thrown them in the garbage. That's your first step.
So I've replaced both of the plastic Mopar idler pulleys with these metal ones from Napa. When put side by side, you can really see the Napa pulleys are built with durability in mind. Not only do they come with an oversized bearing, which is easily serviceable, they are full metal construction and are not a composite material. Installing these idler pulleys is a snap. Installing the serpentine belt, on the other hand, requires a bit more patience. I started the belt at the bottom. I first wrapped it around the harmonic balancer. Then I fed the belt between the left pulley and the tensioner, and around the power steering pump. Next step is to feed it under the right pulley, over the water pump, and around the AC compressor. And finally, I wrapped it around the alternator. You'll have to move the belt tensioner into the open position before you can bolt the alternator back into its proper place. Because I was doing this job solo, as usual, I did have to get just a bit creative with the breaker bar. Check the belt tension, ensuring it's nice and snug, and then start putting everything back together, starting with the battery. Then the airbox. Just don't forget to remove your Ziploc bag on the throttle body. I can't imagine it would be all that good for your engine if it were to get sucked in. Reconnect the sensor and pop the air intake back into the throttle body and onto the airbox. Tighten everything down and fire up your Jeep to inspect the new belt and the pulleys.
So if you do a lot of mudding through deep unknown puddles, this is definitely an upgrade you should do. You know, it's $50 each, so $100 total, and that's Canadian bucks, so like $5 American dollars. Just kidding. It's a pretty inexpensive upgrade for a lot of peace of mind. Now, it doesn't mean you're out of the woods, because you still do have that belt tensioner, which is not rebuildable. So you should periodically check that, and it's a pretty easy thing to do. You can do it from the bottom side of the Jeep with your breaker bar. Just reef on it, put it in the open position, and just give the pulley on the tensioner a quick spin. If it sounds pretty loud, or if it's not moving all that freely, it's time for a new belt tensioner. Unfortunately, those aren't cheap. They're around $290, $300 Canadian for the Napa, around the same for the Mopar. Again, I strongly recommend the Napa. It's not rebuildable, but it is definitely an upgrade over the Mopar tensioner.
So one thing I didn't really talk too much about was the OEM alternator. Since I shot this video, I've actually ditched it.
I didn't get the alternator in time for this video. I'm going to do a separate video just on that alternator, the installation, as well as my thoughts and why I upgraded to the one I did. But in the meantime, I hope you liked this video, and I hope you found it pretty helpful in describing the dangers of going through mud and what to do to help make your Jeep just a little bit more durable, a little bit more bulletproof, if you will. If you did like this video, if it helped you, smash that like button and don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you all out on the trail. Hopefully not with a seized idler pulley or a melted serpentine belt.